4 races to the end of 2012 season. Where are we with the development of the current car?
We are clearly heading to the last 4 races, having lost our championship lead and having still some performance to make up to our main rivals. So that means that we cannot defend, we must attack in the last 4 races, and we have a plan to bring upgrades to the car in every single race and to try to close the gap to Red Bull and to fight with them for the wins and hopefully bring home the title.
It's always said that one of the keys for the success is the development rate. Are you happy with this development rate in 2012?
I think if one looks at it as a whole, one can be reasonably pleased with where we are now, still fighting for the championship, being one of the two main contenders for the championship, compared to where we were at the start of the season, where we were really in a very bad shape. So in that respect we can be reasonably pleased. That said, we were hoping to be a bit further ahead in the last few races that we've completed. We had brought quite a few upgrades to the car, and we were hoping that those would have closed the gap to our main rivals. That didn't materialize for various reasons, and that clearly has been frustrating for us, and we have had to think hard about what didn't work and try to recover that. So really I'm not pleased about the last say couple of months, but I think overall it's okay, and I hope that in the last 4 races we will be pleased again.
What were the actions done to solve the problems you're talking about?
We did bring, as I mentioned, some components to the track which we had predicted would have made the car go faster, which had a negative effect. So we had to be very careful in our measurements to analyze that. When this happens, when you have components that in the wind tunnel may appear to be better but then do not translate to the track, one has to be very careful about what is happening. So as a result we organized what we call an aero test in order to try to evaluate these components and to do some fine-tuning of them, and this was completed before the India weekend, and we got some very interesting answers, some very clear trends about what was wrong, and we believe that we have taken steps to recover that.
Looking at longer term, what are the actions to solve the problems of correlation? And I would like to ask you to explain also the meaning of the word correlation in the aerodynamic world, to make the Ferrari wind tunnel more competitive compared to the rest of the Formula One world.
Well, in Formula One aerodynamics, when one talks about correlation, one really means the level to which your wind tunnel can predict the performance, the aerodynamic performance of the real car, the track. A wind tunnel correlation is not black and white. It's not either you have it or you don't. It's there's different degrees and levels. There can be miscorrelation for a lot of different reasons, whether it is the flow quality or whether it is the scale of the car or the size of the wind tunnel or some geometrical differences, etc. There can be a huge number of reasons for which you may have problems with correlation. What our tunnel is clear is that we've had some areas where we've actually failed in bringing the performance of the car. So there are some undeniable problems that we need to solve. What we have decided to do is to take some fairly significant steps to upgrade our wind tunnel, to bring it to the forefront of the technology that is known at the moment. Compared to some of our rivals, our tunnel is now a bit older, and we believe that it has fallen behind in some of these aspects. So that's why we have decided to perform these fairly major upgrades. Now these clearly take some time, and there will be some months during which one has to do these actions, and clearly we cannot stop development during that time. So we will be renting a wind tunnel commercially and performing our development there while we perform these upgrades in our own wind tunnel. And hopefully by the end of that process we will be able to come back to a much more accurate and good facility and carry on developing in our own house.
How difficult is to work on two different wind tunnels at the same time?
In an ideal world, if one has a wind tunnel where one gets all the good results, etc., to have one wind tunnel is actually a lot simpler than having two, because one doesn't have to go back and forth, do comparisons and so on. One can rely on what one is measuring. When one has some correlation issues, it's useful on the other hand to have some checks in another facility and to be able to compare the results from different facilities. So that's why we've had to use another wind tunnel. So it makes life more complicated for sure, but when one has these correlation issues, it's quite useful.
Coming back to the last part of the current season, how do you foresee the behavior of the car in the next 4 races from the aerodynamic point of view?
The last 4 races are all reasonably high downforce circuits. Now 2 of them are, let's say, close to maximum downforce, another 2 are slightly more moderate levels of downforce, but all fundamentally reasonably high downforce circuits. So there's not a huge difference in the aerodynamic setup of the different races. There are some differences, but not massive. So our objective is not really circuit dependent, but it's more trying to bring all these upgrades we've got from the wind tunnel work as quickly as possible, as early as possible to the track, and also to confirm their performance at the track, so hopefully not have these problems I was citing earlier. So hopefully convert the wind tunnel performance to a car that actually goes faster in each one of these races.
How do you determine the aerodynamic configuration of the car for a brand new circuit, as Austin will be?
When we arrive at Austin on the free practice 1 on Friday before the race, it will not be the first time we've actually analyzed how the car should be set up. We have received a circuit map and we've got information about the circuit in terms of the straights, the corners, the basic layout of the track, and we have managed to do that, to take that data and put it in the simulations, whether it is offline simulations with our various simulation tools or on the actual simulator itself. So we have done quite a lot of setup work already on the car, both from an aerodynamic point of view but also from other aspects, suspension, etc. And we feel we've got a reasonably good view about what to expect. Clearly, once we arrive there, then there will be obviously fine-tuning. There will be some aspects which maybe haven't been simulated completely and will need some adjustment, and that will happen during the Friday before the race.
Last question, looking at next year, where are we with the development of the design of 2013 car?
The 2013 car is at quite an advanced stage. We have the good fortune, considering that we are in a championship fight for 2012, to have a continuity of regulations for 2013, which means that the work we're doing for 2012 car aerodynamically can also be translated onto that car, and therefore it's beneficial for both championships, let's say. From a mechanical point of view, of course, we've had to finalize a lot of the car, all the chassis, gearbox, mechanical layout, suspensions, crash structures are all fairly finalized, because we need to obviously be producing pieces, and the car is already in production at the moment. The aerodynamic package that goes into the car still needs a lot of evolving, because that the bulk of that work will happen once we've finished the 663, the 2012 development.